All right, we're live for episode 3, guys. This is, like I said, episode 3 of Know the Game podcast, and we're joined by my co-host, Mr. Jeff Dodd, and we've got a guest caller, Tyler Parson, calling in today. He's muted himself for now, but at some point we may ask for his 2 cents and have him provide his fantasy insight. But for now, Jeff, do you want to kind of take us away and maybe start with, we'll just follow up on matchups from week 2 and kind of go over the losers and the winners of the week?
Yeah. Spoiler alert, I lost. So there's that. No, it was going back to Sunday night, we talked about what we thought was going to happen. And I would say the only thing that happened that I was wrong on is Kevin is our 2-0. He's the only one who's 2-0. And he can thank George Pickens for that 70-yard touchdown that gave him that boost. And while he is the only 2-0 team, the rest of us are 1-1 except for Mr. Jonas.
Jonas, which we talked about on the last episode for those that watched. I think we saw what direction that game was heading in. Tough week 2 for not Brules, but for Jonas. But there's plenty of fantasy football left in the season. He has plenty of time to make those adjustments, and I'd like to say that I did call Kevin's win. I went back and I was pretty confident about saying that he had won when he was actually still losing, so that was pretty bold, but that did play out like we thought. I think there was only really one game that I predicted wrong, and I was saying that Sloman was going to take a loss, and that was it Tua and Jalen Waddle stack for Burleson didn't really pan out like we thought it was going to.
Yeah, the second half of that game really kind of slowed down, and then Burleson did not get the help that he needed from Sanders and Najee Harris. But it's just week 2. Everybody's kind of in a good position, very competitive. So we'll see what week 3 has in store for us.
Right. Okay. So we've got a bunch of 1-1 teams, one person at the helm leading the charge, and Jonas at the lowest point that he can possibly be at for the season. So the only way up for Jonas is, after this week, and then with Kevin, it can only get worse for him at this point. So, I mean, undefeated after 2 weeks, I feel pretty good.
I'll agree with that, because it does seem like Jonas has only one direction he can move in, which is up. I mean, being the only winless team in the league. So I know he's hoping he turns it around, and I know he's being active. He sent me a bogus trade today that was an easy decline, so at least he's trying.
Would you like to share with the group what that trade entailed?
Oh, I thought you would never ask. So earlier this morning, Jonas sent me, I believe it was Jordan Addison and, what running back was it? Maybe Alexander Madison, in hopes of me giving him Jonathan Taylor. So, no shot.
Well, all you can do is try, and at least you were a good manager and paid attention to the trade offer and declined it as you should in those instances.
Well, there was a little bit of, revenge in my mind, because I sent what I thought was an okay offer for Michael Pittman earlier this year, and he rejected it in 2 seconds and said that it was a BS offer. So I'm glad I got to return the favor.
Well, all right, guys. I think that kind of encapsulate what happened this past week. So really what we want to dive in for just maybe 10 or 15 minutes here. You've had a lot of stuff happened over the weekend with some of these matchups, big injury updates. For those of you that keep up with it as much as we do, I think everybody saw the gruesome Nick Chubb injury. I really hope that he gets better and hope that, he can rebound from something like that. I don't know how bad it is or what the process to come back from an injury like that is, but I really hate that for him and his family, and also just Cleveland Brown fans. That's got to suck. But to kind of segue, from that injury into something fantasy related, that is going to mean a lot of people are gunning for none other than Jerome Ford. I think that'll be a huge waiver wire target that a lot of people have. And for those of you that still have waiver wire money left, I'm sure the bits for somebody like him will be substantial. And then you had a couple of other injuries. You had Saquon Barkley with a regular ankle sprain. They originally thought his was going to be a little bit more serious, but it's just going to be a 2 or 3 week sit out period for him. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah, the initial fear was that he was going to miss at least 2 to 3 weeks, and I saw is it Brian Dabble? Is that how we would
Mm-hmm.
pronounce his name?
Brian Dabble.
Yeah, he actually came out today and said that he's not ready to rule him out for Thursday night. That he's going to keep Saquon as a game time decision, which is pretty remarkable considering what we were led to believe based on what we were seeing on the field. So we'll see. I would still be shocked if Saquon plays Thursday night.
That would blow me away, man. Because after the reaction that he had from that injury, watching that game, he was visibly frustrated. I thought that it was going to be something that was bad because he was slamming his helmet on the ground. So I kind of assumed that it was going to be either a season-ending type injury or something that would keep him out until playoffs. So that's good news. If you're who has Saquon exactly in our league?
That would be Brules. And just to give you a quick look, because
he has Eckler too, so he's dealing with 2 running backs that have ankle sprains, right?
Well, I was going to say, and he also has Jamal Williams, who also got hurt, and he's missing some time now. So he's taken the injury bug, and he has just decided he's going to be in a league on his own. So, Jamal Williams, Eckler, he didn't have Kelsey week 1. He's got Saquon and then Cooper Kupp on the IR. So I don't know what to tell you, bros. This has just been one of the roughest starts to the season that I can remember.
Well, I mean, I guess the positive thing for him is that he did come away with a week 2 win against me. So kudos to you for, I guess, roughing it out this week, even with all the injuries. So that's best case scenario for your team if you're able to walk away with a win after that many fantasy injuries. So, Jeff, if you're a fantasy manager, is there anybody that you've got eyes on this week for a waiver wire pickup?
I guess I'm going to be in the majority and we've already seen this start in the group text, but it seems Jerome Ford's going to have a lot of attention. So we'll see who is able to manage and spend enough money to grab him. So Jerome Ford is a name to watch in our league. I think he's really the only name to watch in our league. Would you agree, or is there someone else on your radar?
No, I mean, if I need a running back in my lineup, I'm definitely gunning for somebody like Jerome Ford because obviously he's going to pick up a lot of production. It seems like he is the definite second in line to tote the ball after Nick. But I'll maybe switch it up and go away from the running back position. At the receiver position, there is somebody that has stood out to me, and I saw it in week 1, but I wanted to see how it went in week 2. Robert Woods.
Yes.
And just in terms of production, I don't think that Robert Woods at this point in his career is somebody that's big and flashy, but from a fantasy production standpoint, he had 6 receptions in week 1. He had 6 receptions in week 2. He's also getting a little bit of return yards. Is he the kick returner or punt returner for Houston?
I could not tell you. That's how much I know about Robert Woods. I just know that for our league and PPR purposes, he has had a solid start to the year. So I assume someone will be eyeing him. That's a good call. I would also want to throw him. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, so altogether, if you're looking at his stats as a total for week 1 and 2, that's 12 catches on 19 targets for roughly 131 yards receiving. No touchdowns, but in a PPR league, that's a solid 12 to 13 points each week. I would take that if you're in a bad spot.
Yeah, he's a solid flex guy. I would not be shocked at all if he is on a roster when we wake up in the morning. So, but I was just going to mention one name that I would also look out for is Matt Breida. With Saquon, possibly missing this week, Matt Breida was first in line to take over duties when he was no longer on the field. and he also got some reps in preseason. So look for Matt Breida to be picked up as well.
Copy that. And we've had another live caller join, Mr. Robbie Ferris. Welcome to the show, and thanks for joining with us.
It's the Nick Chubb owner.
Yep.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. And for those that are joining live, what me and Jeff would ask of you is that you mute your mic in the meantime, so there's no kind of echo on our end. And if we kind of call on you, we'll have like a little three-way dialogue going on. But it's Robbie that had Nick Chubb, right?
It is. Robbie's a Nick Chubb winner. And get this, just before the injury, he traded Joe Mixon, so he's on a roll.
Oh, man. So, Robbie, we will call on you on this point if you want to talk. We were just going over the Nick Chubb injury and how Jerome Ford's going to be a big waiver wire pickup. Is there any thoughts on that? What's your 2 cents on that whole situation?
Well, I will add that not only was it just Joe Mixon, it was also Brian Robinson as well.
Oh no! Wait, so you dropped Brian Robinson, or you traded?
No, he was part of the trade with Mixon.
Oh.
So, and I've also been thinking that's 2 of the last 3 Monday nights for football have really screwed me in fantasy.
What was the other Monday night?
Going back, the last one last year, the Bills.
Bengals. Oh, I got you.
So, yeah, Ford's available, and we'll see if we can pick him up. We'll see if Kareem Hunt signs.
We'll see how much money you've got to spend. Okay, so you've got your full budget.
So,
yeah.
So if somebody like Robbie wants to throw the kitchen sink at Jerome Ford, he definitely can. There might be a couple of other people gunning for him. I'm not one of those, but I've just heard a conversation, and it seems like he's going to be a heavily targeted guy. Another one, Jeff, unless you wanted to finish what you were saying.
No, you go ahead. That was the only 2 that I had.
And this is one of those guys that like you're not seeing consistency like a Robert Woods where he had 10 targets week 1, 9 targets in week 2, but Marvin Mims Jr. for Denver. He had a really flat week 1. He was targeted 2 times and he had 2 catches. And it was same thing for week 2, but he had 113 yards. It was really just a big play and ended up scoring off of it. So even though he's at the top of the wide receiver pickup, that's somebody that I would be nervous of because it's either bust or kind of go big with somebody like that. But that was the next one I was going to bring up was Mims Jr. after kind of seeing what he did after week 2.
Yeah, you would certainly hope that he would be getting a little bit more volume because like you said, and he's had 2 targets each week, and it just so happened to be that in week 2, both of them were long connections, one going for a touchdown. So, you kind of hope he gets more involved. I'm just, you got to wonder with Jerry Jeudy back along with Cortland Sutton, maybe spread the wealth a little bit more, but I don't know with Russell Wilson. I obviously can't trust him yet, so I have no idea. So
there's just a couple. There's a couple of offenses I'm not too sure about. There's just a lot of questions around. Denver's definitely one of them. It seems like it's just up and down for them.
Not loving it.
Yeah, I don't know about Denver, but also Chicago. I have DJ Moore on my bench, and there's a couple of plays just over the weekend that I saw. He's missing wide open guys, and I don't know if it's a progression thing or it's definitely not that he was getting pressured because he had all day to throw the damn ball, and people were open. So,
and I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what play.
So
I think everybody does.
Yeah. At this point, it's been heavily broadcasted, and you see it on social media too. So, who drafted Justin Fields in our league?
Was it Trey? I want to say Trey. Yeah, Trey.
Yeah.
Oh.
So how are you feeling if you're Trey with Justin Fields?
You're probably not feeling too great. And I will say he does have Anthony Richardson, who's had a hot start. It's just if he can get on the field this week and play, that's maybe an option he goes with.
Okay. Well, we can talk about maybe is there a quarterback on the waiver wire, Jeff, that if you're somebody like Trey and you don't love what you're seeing out of your quarterback position, who are you going after?
Well, just given who's on the waiver wire right now, one of Sloman's favorite players ever, Dak Prescott's available.
Mm.
I know. I'm surprised Sloman is not all over that. May- Maybe Jordan Love.
So as the season rank in fantasy, he sits at player number 17, and that's all positions.
Dak?
No, not Dak. Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. Okay.
He
I was
had
about to say,
25, and
way.
this is Yahoo League, guys. So this is 25 points for week 1 and 20 points for week 2.
Wow.
So he's, having a pretty good fantasy start, considering.
I would say so. 17th overall, yeah. I'm sure he might get picked up too.
Well, is there anybody? I know I've covered a couple. Are there any other waiver wire targets that you'd be after?
I think that'd be it for me. I spent majority of my budget last week to get Javante, so I'm done. I'm not looking for anybody specifically, at least me personally. So I'm going to let all of you guys battle it out tonight. See who comes up big and gets Jerome Ford. That's the one I'm looking the most. Most excited for that one.
Sure. One thing I'll mention is if you're a fantasy league manager that doesn't have a defense like the Dallas Cowboys or the 49ers, or a team of that caliber, or maybe the Eagles that you're relying on, I'm somebody that is in that boat, and I kind of pick up defenses based off of matchups. And there are a couple of really good matchups defensive wise that I would mention. And this is just opinion. Again, we are not NFL experts, but I like the New England and New York Jets matchup. I know that this is at New York, but I feel like I could see New England coming away with a lot of turnovers in this game. They've
Bro, did you see Pittsburgh? What they scored last night?
Wasn't it 2 touchdowns? They had I know TJ Watt with a defensive touchdown, but they had 29, 30 defensive points.
42.
42.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns. They had 3 fumble recoveries, 6 sacks. Wow, they're available, and they play the Vegas Raiders.
And it's in Las Vegas.
Correct.
I don't know how comfortable I feel about that. I feel like Las Vegas is playing some good ball. You've got Jimmy Guap at the helm, and Devontae Adams is looking pretty good. So they're a team that can score the ball.
That's the Sunday night game too.
Mm-hmm. And tell you who I originally actually had as my week 1 defense, and they're still available. Jacksonville is matched up with Houston in week 2, and it's a home game.
Why'd you speak that into existence?
Yeah, it is a home game for Jacksonville. So, I could see the Jags having kind of like a really good showing against Houston. Maybe not shutout like the Cowboys and Giants game, but it would still be, I think, heavily favored to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I would have picked them up, but now that you have announced that, I'm sure I will not get them.
Well, just want to be fair here, and we're,
I don't want to be fair.
Well, the unfortunate part about what we're now choosing to do, Jeff, is
we're sharing our info.
We're sharing our info, and
I'm 11th on the waiver wire. I'm not getting them anyway.
Hey, but this is also just our opinion. Doesn't make it right. I could be completely off base by saying that. And some people may already feel confident with the matchups that they got. I don't expect anybody to take my word and run with it by any means, but just things that I'm seeing thus far.
Everything that Cameron has said, just don't believe it. Jacksonville's not going to be any good, so just don't even worry about picking them up. It's okay.
It's going to be okay. The only position that maybe we haven't covered that's worth covering, I'm not going to spend any time covering a kicker unless that's something that you want to do, Jeff.
Kickers are just, hit and miss. You'll get a good week or maybe a couple of good weeks out of them. Most weeks, in between 5 and 10 is what you're shooting for. So,
Well, I think if you're in a bad position and your tight ends are not performing for you in this particular Know the Game league, there is a Zach Ertz, former Philadelphia Eagle, available, and he's had a very average showing week 1 and week 2, but he's produced points. No goose eggs on the board. I think he had 8 points in week 1 and 11, nearly 12 points in week 2, so that's not terrible either.
tight ends have been kind of slow to start the year.
Yeah.
I know Hawkinson's been good. Kelsey with a quiet day. Kittle's been quiet.
Who's had a great week 1 and 2 that I picked up off the waiver?
Who did you pick up?
Hunter Henry.
Yeah, he's actually been really solid.
14.6 in week 1, 15.2 in week 2, and he's been targeted 13 times with 11 catches. So he's bringing in, call that 90% of his targets, or maybe high 80s.
And he scored in both games.
Yep. So he's getting that red zone consistency. Mac is definitely looking for Hunter as an option in the red zone, and so that shows another thing. The Patriots are passing in the red zone, which if you are a manager that has Ramondre Stevenson, that can make you nervous. Does that make you nervous, Jeff?
No, not at all. I'm fine. Everything's great.
All right. Well, we should probably go ahead and dive into the matchups for this upcoming week. So who do you want to cover first?
All right. Here they are. Week 3 matchups.
Let's go ahead and click into one of them.
Okay. Let's go. Let's see if we've got... This is an interesting one. Sloman and Skunk, currently ranked 9th and 11th in the league. Yahoo's got Sloman as a 6-point favorite. And have you noticed that projections are really low this week?
Yeah, I have.
Everybody.
Yeah, I have noticed that. I feel like Yahoo's playing it safe on a couple of these, but is there a way that you can pull up bench players with this too, Jeff?
Yes.
Awesome. And Sloman, if you're not busy right now, I know we've got him on the call. Do you want to kind of give us your input for your matchup this week? Kind of your thoughts on why you're leaving these particular people on the bench?
So, hi guys.
Hey man, welcome to the call.
I'm honestly undecided on flex right now. I have Michael Thomason for the moment. Just consistency of targets, seeing him for 2 weeks in a row. Only saw Jerry Jeudy once last week. Very modest at best showing, but honestly, what I saw that I was kind of at least hopeful about is, Jeudy only had 5 targets, but if you look, he actually was second on the team in targets, only behind Sutton, who had 7. So Russell Wilson really spread the ball around a whole lot. And I might end up going back Jeudy just because if you notice, the Broncos are playing the Dolphins this weekend.
Which is going to be a pass-heavy game.
I can see it being a high-scoring game. So
it's in Miami. You're going to expect good weather in Miami, so hopefully you're not going to be dealing with rain or anything like that there. So that's a promising matchup.
Oh, sorry, we had a baby. I'm kind of in between on my flex right now. But I think the rest of my team is pretty much set in stone. But I am still looking at that flex spot. Now I noticed that Skunk made some changes, which honestly I expected. He couldn't leave Nico Collins on the bench any longer.
No, he couldn't. After the big week 2 that he had, and I'm pretty sure he had a solid week 1. It's hard to leave somebody like that on your bench. But that goes back to the point we were talking about last week, and Sloman, you were on the call when we were talking about this. But there's some guys that you're going to leave on the bench just to see how they do in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it was with MT. But you look at Nico Collins, man, getting double-digit targets every week. So that's something I look for, because that is, if a player success, I usually like to look at volume, because that's the only thing that's repeatable. Volume that they get. Touchdowns can be here and there, but volume's big, and Nico Collins is definitely deserving of one of those receiver spots for him.
Yeah, I agree. Jeff, can you big box Drake London? Can you click on his player and kind of pull up?
He had a better week last weekend. He bounced back with 16.
Okay, so these are the first two games. Obviously, we all are aware that first week the Falcons was a dud. They won the game, but fantasy wise, it was not the greatest. If you had London, Pitts, unless you had Algier in your lineup, you were kind of frustrated. But London bounced back, 6 for 67 and a touchdown. It's pretty solid.
Heck yeah, because he goose egged week one, so you feel a little bit better about maybe that was a part of their game plan. Is coach, I didn't get the ball week one. What's the plan this upcoming week? And they definitely fed him the ball. So that's relieving if you're Skunk.
Can y'all see that screen?
No, it's just showing the matchup. I was going to mention that, but you were kind of talking us through
there you go.
His receptions. Right. There we go.
I had to switch screens, but yeah, there's the game log for the year so far. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. So yeah, targeted 7 times. What was his yardage? 67. I see.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Pretty solid outing in week 2. We'll see what they can keep it up in week number 3. Y'all give me 1 second. I'm gonna switch back to the home screen so I can share the main league. I don't know why it doesn't let me just navigate back and forth, but here we go.
It just takes a second to pull up, but
yeah, I do like. Speaking of high scoring games, Atlanta at Detroit there should be some fireworks in that game.
Yeah. Well, I guess since we've still got Slowman on the call right here, unless there's anything else that you want to bring up, Slowman, you just want to kind of college game day style pick this matchup and let Slowman give his guess on his matchup?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right.
Well, I mean, what you think, man?
Jeff, I'll let you.
I got to rock with Kenny F in this one, personally.
No surprise.
Look, I don't think there's anything just crazy separating the teams right now. I think it could be a very close game. Depend on. I think if my guys can just have an average showing, then I should be okay, so long as nobody just bottoms out on me. I think a lot of it can hinge on Garrett Wilson in this matchup. We saw him last year with Zach Wilson, and he's going to get the ball thrown to him, but how many times can Zach connect with him? And last week, if it wasn't for that big long touchdown, then it's not such a hot game for Garrett. So I think at this point, unless Zach Wilson just does a total 180, Garrett Wilson might have to rely on some big plays this year to put up wide receiver 2 numbers where he was drafted. Or he was drafted with wide receiver 1 numbers, but I think now it kind of drops him back into wide receiver 2 range at best. And can Raheem Mostert have? I mean, I don't expect him to have this last week. He's not going to get 2 touchdowns every game, but he can still play some ball and maybe get double digits. I'm expecting double digits from him. We'll see about Kincaid, and Drake London's kind of been, he either has a pretty solid game or he has a dud usually. He's been sort of boom or bust, not necessarily big boom, but he'll either put up wide receiver 2 numbers or dud out. So I think it'll just kind of depend on those 3 guys.
Yeah. A lot of that seems to be dependent on the game plan that Atlanta's rolling with. I'm still kind of confused on what they're leaning towards. Maybe they're just kind of testing things out. But week 1, it seemed a little bit more run heavy. Maybe they just weren't having as much success through the air in week 2. they turned around and were passing a little bit more. And maybe some of that is completely matchup dependent. Who's the team that you're playing, and do we have the matchup on the outside with certain receivers? So, they've got Denver. We were just saying that we think it could be pass heavy. Denver typically does have a pretty good rushing defense, so that could bode well for you, Sloman. And Jeff, I don't want to cut you off. I'll pass the torch in just a second. The last thing that I'll say on this matchup is I've got eyes on his running back, 1 and 2. If CMC has a CMC day against a struggling New York Giants team, that could be really good for Dylan and really bad for you, Sloman. And if Mostert can,
I totally expect you to get 20.
Yeah. And everybody's going to have that person on their team that's sort of, keeping them in it the whole time. And that's definitely CMC for Skunk this year. And Mostert being his RB2 is definitely what I would have done as well. He's got 3 touchdowns through his first 2 games. I don't expect that to change. They're going to try to keep him involved. But my guess, Sloman, last week I took you. I'm going to have to roll. I'm going to have to roll Dylan in this week's matchup.
Understandable. I don't think it's a runaway matchup either way. I think it could go either way this week.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's going to be a runaway matchup either. I think that it's going to be neck and neck. But just based off of matchups that I'm seeing, I feel like Dylan will edge out a very, very close Week 3 win against Mr. Connor. Jeff, what's your take?
Just one quick thought from me. I'm looking at Thursday night. Sloman's got Debo and Darren Waller. While, of course, we've mentioned Skunk's got McCaffrey. So my prediction, if Sloman can outscore Skunk, which, should maybe – I'm thinking should be pretty easy to do, but you never know with McCaffrey. He could break off a long run of some sort. But I'm looking for Sloman to outscore Skunk with his 2 players versus McCaffrey, and I think if Sloman is able to do so, he should be able to take the win. So we are going to go over here. We're going to pick Sloman to win.
All right.
Rolling Kenny F. Smart move.
We've got 2-1 leaning Connor's way. So let's
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Connor. Appreciate you joining, man.
Appreciate it, Gus.
Okay. Just real quick. Let's see. Let's move on. Where's Robbie gets the bout with the only undefeated team in the league this week. And
Yahoo has this projected 0.01 difference. You don't see that very often. Talk about a neck and neck difference. 122.88 to 122.87 is the projection for this week. So that is that's a tight one.
Let me pull up the bench players and Robbie, hop on here and correct me if I'm wrong, but is Montgomery playing this week?
I do not expect him to. He's the only 2 running backs on my roster right now, so I had to put him there for now.
Okay.
Those will not be my running backs come Sunday.
Okay, so you're saying don't expect either of these 2 in your lineup?
Absolutely not. Maybe Gibson, maybe, only if things go bad. But I'm going to be honest with y'all. I fully expect to get Jerome Ford unless someone if someone outbids me, I don't they're insane.
I guess you don't want to, drop a final number, and we wouldn't want you to do that because
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, everyone's going to be trying to get Jerome. It's just I can imagine that. I mean, is it fair to say that you won't have much of a budget after tonight?
No. I will. And Kevin, coincidentally, has Kareem Hunt on his bench.
Wow.
So,
he must have drafted him, and he must have been just holding on to him this whole time. There's no way that
there may have been discussions.
Oh, okay. So there's possible trade rumors, is what you're saying.
Rumors is all I would call it.
Rumors. Okay. I'm fine with that.
Well, you heard it here, guys. We could have a potential lineup change for Robbie, which would completely change these projections. But let's just kind of talk about the people that we know are going to be in his lineup and that are going to produce. You've got the Chargers playing at Minnesota. Minnesota has struggled on the ground. You've had Minnesota coughing up the ball a lot with just turnovers from Alex Madison. So I would see Minnesota passing a lot, and the Chargers are typically a pass first sort of offense. For those, if there's a league manager that started Joshua Kelly, you're probably upset that he didn't really do anything in week 2, but it is what it is. So I see Justin Herbert performing well for Robbie. CD is having a great start. The Dallas Cowboys are off to a great start. Olave is getting heavy production. So, I would feel really good about those 3 for sure. Mark Andrews coming out of week 2. That was his first game of the season, right?
Yes, he did miss week 1.
And he had a great showing for his first game. So it looks like, he's picking up right where he left off with Lamar. That, relationship and that connection still kind of going strong. And I would like to say that I called the Christian Kirk situation last week. I did say that Christian Kirk was going to perform well. And, man, he had a great week, too, for you, Robbie. So I'm leaving him right there in my flex if I'm you. And, somebody else that I really wanted to draft but ended up going a different way was Tank Dell. I just heard so many good things about him coming out of camp. So I think that it's interesting to see if he's going to continue to get the production that he saw last week, because they've got more options that I thought about. Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I feel like I'm leaving somebody out of that mix, but CJ Stroud didn't look bad either.
No, and you mentioned Robert Woods
Mm-hmm.
in there? Okay. Yeah, Woods, Dell, Nico.
Which, again, is a free agent and available to pick up.
That's right. So, Robbie, let me ask you this. I know last week you rolled with Lockett over Kirk. Is there, any worry about leaving Lockett on your bench? Or you just feel like Kirk will just continue to where last week is just more consistent?
Well, there is. I deliberated. That's between Kirk and Lockett every week for me for flex.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And
I'm assuming solely based off a matchup who you're feeling better about.
And I saw, last year when Kirk was the lead, he was held to like 3 catches across 2 games against Houston. So now I'm thinking that with Ridley being the lead guy, maybe he'll attract that same attention and leave Kirk open.
Yeah. I like that. That's
a good thought.
100%.
So let's take a little bit of a look at who Kevin's going into the week 3 with. How do you think Brock Purdy does on Thursday night?
I think he'll be fine. My only concern with Purdy in this game would be if the 49ers get up quickly, they'll turn it into a run, game, run out the clock sort of thing. He'll still throw here and there, but you would certainly hope that, they were in a catch up from behind situation, so Purdy's throwing a lot more. But yeah, this is going to be a lot of turning around and handing it to McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell and just, beat down the Giants, get that long that 10-day rest period, and just, if he's projected 16, he'll probably finish around that mark.
Yeah, and you feel good if you're Kevin about your wide receiver 1 and 2. Pickens has been somewhat consistent, had a great week last week on a long catch for a score. Amari Cooper, he's going to get his touches. I haven't seen anything really outside of the Cleveland wide receivers that are that impressive outside of Amari. How did Njoku do for you last week?
Yeah, but you can continue that tune. Not impressive.
Yeah, not impressive. And then Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard with a 1-2 punch. That's
an incredibly low projection for Derrick Henry.
I agree. And I don't agree at all.
It may just be me, or we all know Derrick is kind of limited in the passing game, but come on, Henry's going to get 12.
Projections are simply that, people. They are projections.
Stupid.
And sometimes I think they're very stupid, and other times they end up being very accurate. But this is one that I don't agree with. I see Derrick Henry with 20 plus points in this. Hopefully, Not in your case, Robbie. I hope that doesn't happen to you, but it's more than likely that that's what's going to happen. Kevin's got a really great team. There's a reason that he's 2-0. Zay Flowers, great to have in your flex, and Kevin's got some depth, especially when Kamara comes back. If he decides to hang on to Chubb, or not Chubb, but Hunt, and he has some production in that offense, then that could bode well for him as well.
I figured that we'll see Hunt with the Browns by the end of the week.
You think so?
That's just my feel. He's already in Cleveland. I know Cleveland said that Jerome Ford's the guy, but, they're going to add some depth. And if they can get Kareem Hunt on the cheap, I think that's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. So who are you rolling with in this game?
Robbie, don't take this personally, but depleted at running back, I'm going Kevin. But, we'll see. It's a long week. I know you may wind up with Jerome Ford. I know that the trade market is off and running, so we'll see. I mean, Robbie did say that these will not be his starting running backs, so we don't know what his team will look like. So could be way off on this one, but for now, I'm going to roll with Kevin since he's projected to win by 0.01 anyway.
Yep. Well, you have good sense about you, Jeff, and that's why I love you, man. You're taking the smart pick, but you're also erring on the side of that's a safe pick, man. So I'm gonna be bold and courageous right here. I'm gonna say Robbie gets it done on either the waiver wire. I also think that regardless of whoever he gets, I feel like his receivers and his quarterback are going to be enough to get him this week 3 dub against Kevin, and he hands Kevin his first loss, and they both move into week 4 2-1.
I will say this: there are rumors that Robbie is going to trade CeeDee Lamb to me. Just rumors.
That just sounds like a hopeful Cowboys fan. What's your take on that, Robbie?
Yeah, it's actually the details of that are CD and a first rounder for Njoku.
Oh,
for Njoku.
Consider it done.
He said, "Send it over."
Hey Cam, I like the old Corso not so fast you gave Jeff there.
Not so fast. Yeah, if I had some headgear, I would put on like a Robbie headgear. It'd be kind of freaky. Like it'd be your face on top of my face. I should do that. I should have some cutouts of you guys and just like hold it in front of the camera.
Good to see.
So Robbie, I mean, we'll let you comment on your own matchup like we let Sloman. What's your take on this week? Do you get the dub? Are you able to make it happen?
No, we're gonna get beat bad. We don't have my team. We're lucky to be here. Yeah, he's just a better manager than me, better players. Looking forward to week 4.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. You got to love the confidence. It's a long season ahead of you, Robbie. This is going into week 3. Hopefully you're able to make something happen, whether it's a trade or a big waiver wire pickup. But don't give up on your team just yet. A lot of football left to be played. As you saw, we had so many injuries coming out of week 2. There's no telling what's going to happen in week 3.
I don't think anybody knows that better than Robbie.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, fellas. I'll see y'all.
Yeah, we'll see you, man. Thanks for joining.
All right. Cameron, you want to hop into your matchup real quick? We are kind of – it is 9, so we probably need to move a little bit.
Yep.
Projected 110. What's going on? What's happening?
Well, I'll tell you this. If you'll pull up my bench, I will be making some changes to my lineup. Number one.
Yes. I see. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that Aaron Jones will be coming back in week 3. I'm scared because it could be limited touches for Aaron, which means AJ, will pick up, possibly 10 to 15 carries. So I'm still trying to decide what I want to do there. I'm just afraid that Eckler's coming back into the mix. It could really go both ways, like Josh Kelly and Eckler, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I feel like it's a similar situation. Obviously, Aaron is the better option, and I think that's what I'll end up doing is I'll have Aaron Jones, Pacheco, my RB1 and 2. I'm going to leave Hunter Henry because he's having a great start to the year. And I may end up putting DJ Moore back into my flex after seeing him become more involved in week 2. And inevitably, I'm sure I'll regret that because Algier could have a phenomenal week 3, but who knows? I still have some moves to make, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, I understand that. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned looking at your bench. I forgot that Aaron Jones missed last week, and you actually have him and DJ Moore slotted to get nearly 12.5. So yeah, and like you said, these projections are BS most of the time. So just giving you a little bit of a hard time there. Let's see. And I will say for Burleson's team, Jalen Waddle's in concussion protocol.
And what's the situation for Ayuk? What?
So yeah, there's a chance that he might miss. So keep that in mind because he's a Thursday night game. So keep that in mind because I can't remember exactly. I read the report and I just cannot remember off the top of my head. But it didn't sound serious whatsoever. It just the fact they're playing a Thursday night game may keep him out.
So it was a shoulder injury. Limited participant in today's practice. This was a report from 3:30 today. He was a non-participant on Monday, but if he was able to get some reps today, that's at least a sign of hope. But the safe play here is to put DJ Moore in at my wide receiver 2 and maybe just roll with Algier. I mean, I can go a couple of different ways with it, honestly, but I'm going to have to make a decision because Thursday night game is coming soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, DJ Moore, you can't ask for a better replacement, really. I mean, DJ Moore's on your bench. That's pretty solid.
Yeah. And that was always my goal is, I'm not somebody that has a defense or a quarterback sitting on my bench, in my opinion, taking up space because you can always go grab one based on matchup. I like to have depth at wide receiver and running back. That's always been the goal, just in case you have injuries come up or, you just have a better matchup for one specific week. But, man, Dylan has a great team. He had a phenomenal week 1 and could have easily ran away with week 2 had the Dolphins had a better game. But, Connor has a really good team and, unfortunately took a week 2 L. We both did. But let's see.
To see if Burleson tries to make any moves at running back because I know if he's like anybody else, Najee Harris, I'm not sure what's going on, but do you know how many points he has on the year fantasy-wise in our league?
I'm going there right now.
Yeah. I'll let you just look and get your live reaction because it's not good for your RB1.
Oh, I pulled up Chris Godwin. Ow. Yeah. I mean, I'm not very happy if I'm DB in that regard. Do we know what round, or do you remember what round he took Najee in?
I can tell you. Give me 1 second. But obviously,
because I can only assume that he would be like a 2nd to 4th round pick. That's just my assumption.
He was the 4th pick in the 3rd round.
4th pick in the 3rd round. So yeah, you take somebody like him in the 3rd round, you're hoping for heavy production, and you can't really blame him for his train of thought because you have a young Kenny Pickett taking over this offense with some receivers that are good but not elite by any means. Isn't Deontay Johnson, is he still hurt, or will he be coming back week 3?
As the owner of Deontay Johnson, he has been placed on IR.
So what was his injury?
Hamstring. Hamstring has been really flaring up in the league so far this year. There's been several hamstrings, and of course, as Jonas would tell us, Achilles has been a notable injury with another one bites the dust, as he likes to call it. So I don't know how you feel, but I feel like this year has just been injury-ridden. I mean, left and right, anytime you look around, someone's getting hurt.
I just don't ever remember it being this bad. And and maybe we say this every year, and it's normally like this, but it seems like all the big name players are going down so far, and you hate to see that for them because you obviously to me, it makes watching the NFL that more fun. You have the best of the best going at it. You want to see those guys play, especially somebody like Nick Chubb, who is not very flashy. He's not a very flashy guy.
He's just a bruiser.
He's just a bruiser. He gets it done. He's going to pick up 5 to 6 yards a carry, just bully balling you. Yep. He's going to run you over. So, I mean, I hate that for him.
And I hate it the same way that you do. It's not, we feel awful for the players, but as fans, we want to see these players playing at their best, and them not being on the field. Just it's not fun for us either, just as much as it's not for the player himself.
Definitely. Yep. And just to kind of maybe dig more into this matchup, comparatively, I really like the depth and kind of the options that I have versus Dylan. That's just me personally. But I mean, Dylan's team can go off and have a really big day. Jalen and that Tua stack can always get you 40 to 60 combined. Godwin hasn't really come out and just blown it out of the water yet, but he's had 10 points each week. He's right there in the middle. He's just getting by. Obviously, for anybody that's watched the Buccaneers play the first 2 weeks, Mike Evans is the surprise story. And maybe Baker even more so is the surprise story because he's handling the start of the season very well. He's coming in with a chip on his shoulder, and he's feeding Big Mike.
One thing, Cameron, but Dallas does play Arizona this week. Just FYI. I know Arizona kind of put some points on New York last week, but just seeing how Dallas's defense, my unbiased, sitting back just watching football, you have to admit Dallas's defense is the defense to have.
Listen to this. So the rank 1 overall fantasy producer,
don't say it,
is the Dallas defense.
No way.
This is including quarterbacks. This is including running backs, receivers. You're right. I mean, the 56 for us, and it could be different if you're in, NFL versus ESPN, Sleeper, whatever you use. But for us, Yahoo had it scored at 56 points. For a combined 2-week total, we're looking at 10 total sacks, 5 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 touchdowns, a blocked kick, 15 tackles for losses.
Wow.
And that probably caps it off. But I mean, I would have never guessed that Dallas. I mean, I know they have a good roster top to bottom, but man, that's just nuts to me that they're leading the league.
And I mean, I know some may disagree with this, but we do put a little bit of emphasis on defenses in this league, and we always have. I'm sure we will moving forward. It just makes things that much more interesting, and I'm sure there's no one more excited about our defensive scoring settings than Burleson is right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're in a league like us with the scoring settings the way that you have them, Jeff, it kind of matters the defense that you're picking, and that I know it's going to affect my drafting strategy going into next year because that's something I really didn't consider this year at all, and it typically isn't because of the scoring settings in most leagues that I take part in. But if you are a pretty active fantasy manager, as you are, Jeff, and you being the commissioner of this league, I like the twist that you're able to put on some of the scoring and the defense, to be the one position on your fantasy roster that makes the biggest impact. That's just unheard of to me.
Oh yeah, I agree. So just keep that in mind for your matchup Sunday, because that 325 kick, and if you've got a comfortable lead and you see it starting to shrink, I mean, at least you'll know where to look.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and for this matchup, I'm going to take me. I've got to ride with my team. I'm going to make some changes that'll hopefully put me in a better position to win this game, but I feel like a lot of Burleson's players right now are kind of medium production.
Yeah. Look what I'm doing.
Hey, roll with it, man. If that's what you think, is that what you're rolling with?
I'm
Dylan
going
Burleson.
against you, Cameron.
Let's keep it interesting. We'll have something to talk about on this upcoming Tuesday night.
Yeah, for sure. I'll we'll circle back. We'll see how we do.
Yep.
And then let's see, who else do we need? Let's find Parsons matchup.
I would actually love to dig into. We got Parson here still, so let's dig into his. He's at the bottom, but you're on week 2 matchups, Jeff.
I was about to say, why does this look so weird?
Yeah. So it's going to be Jonas and Parson.
I'm sorry, Cameron. I cannot believe I pointed you out when you were projected 110. He's projected 102.
No, it's
wow.
It's okay.
But I like his roster. Edwards has been fine. Jordan Addison has scored in every game so far. I know it's just 2, but
I think his projections are BS.
Yeah, these projections are so weird. Wow. I don't think he's counting on DK playing this week.
Apparently not. But hey, you've got AJ Brown, who had a a lackluster week 2. Man,
I hate
love
those
that.
weeks.
Bear with me, folks. Having a aneurysm mid-episode.
Some mechanical issues. We're going to get this fixed. Hang on.
Yep, exactly.
But no, one thing that stands out, he's got to take that defense out. He's got to get the Giants defense out of there.
I don't even know why you have New York in your lineup, man. Get that out of here.
Jonas, if you can hear us, what are you doing, man?
What are you doing? Yeah, maybe that should be a segment on our show every week moving forward. It's the "What Are You Doing" segment. I think that would be really cool.
Featuring Jonas.
This
feels too easy.
It does, and I'm sorry, Jonas. And until I see something different out of Alex Madison,
Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts. You just got a couple of holes on your roster that Tyler is going to exploit. I mean, Mike Evans, crazy week 1 and 2. TJ Hawkinson, crazy week 1 and 2. Smitty, same thing. And I imagine that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to finally come away with a solid week. They've got to get on the same page after.
We'll figure it out.
Have we heard anything else about Joe Burrow?
So it's uncertain is the word from Zach Taylor this week. They just don't know. And it makes it even tougher on Parson because they're the Monday night game. So Parson's going to have to make a quick decision on Sunday whether or not to just chance it and roll with it, or if he's going to plug in Geno Smith that Sunday afternoon.
I think Geno's a pretty fair replacement in that particular position. I mean, Carolina hasn't been super impressive coming out of the first 2 weeks. So, I mean, worst case scenario, he's got somebody that he can rely on for 15 to 20 points in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'd be okay rolling with Geno until we figure out more with Burrow. So, but Chase is going to figure it out. He's got Devontae plugged in. Hawkinson's been good. And, of course, my sleeper draft pick of the year, Mike Evans, if he continues on the path that he's going on, he's going to kill it again. But a little bit tougher matchup this week.
Yeah, I mean, if Jonas has a chance of winning this week, his X Factor players are going to be his 2 receivers and his flex player. He's going to need to see 20, 30-point games from those guys. And you're absolutely going to have to replace that defense, Jonas. I hope that you watch and listen to this podcast for this week because would love to see you have a chance against Tyler. I don't think that's going to get the job done, though. So, yeah, I'm going to lean with you on Tyler.
If you're Jonas, do you go ahead and get another quarterback while you're at it? Daniel Jones at San Francisco Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking up Jordan Love.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But, yeah, no hate, Jonas. We don't want to see you start 0-3, but,
no hate, Jonas. Love you, man. Just want to be brutally honest about the matchups, and Tyler has a scary good team this year.
Yeah, so I think we're going to roll with Parson on this one. All right, so who does that leave us with? I know. Have we done Broyles and DJ?
We have not, actually, and that's a
We'll do
fun
this one.
matchup.
Check out that project.
So in my eyes, if I had to say game of the week, I think I'm calling it this matchup right here.
I like that. I felt that DJ's got one of the more solid rosters in our league this year. I would say Broyles has the best. It's just he's got to get off this injury bug. I obviously know it's not his fault, but he has just been bitten hard to start the year because if he's completely healthy, he's got the best roster in the league.
100%. And you should, if you have 4 first-round picks, want to continue to let everybody know that watches this podcast that Adam Broyles, because of what he did last year, put himself in a position, and kudos to him, to get 4 first-round picks. So he inevitably set him up to win it all this year, but he's got to stay healthy to get that done.
Yeah, and I think all Broyles has to do is get into the playoffs, and I know no one, and not even myself, would want to face him in any round in the playoffs with that roster.
No, and I faced him last week and took a hard loss, so I can speak from personal experience. Broyles is a tough matchup, but so is DJ. I don't know what week I'm playing DJ in, but I do not look forward to it. Trevor Lawrence and that Jags offense, I'm going to stand by that. They're going to have a great year. Tyreek Hill is going to do Tyreek Hill things. Same thing with Devontae. We've seen Bijan absolutely kill it in the first couple of weeks. We finally started to see a little bit more, I think, out of Jameer this past week, and I'm sure they're going to find ways to continue to involve him, especially with David Montgomery having an injury. So that, honestly, that is probably what gets it done for this week and this matchup for me, Jeff. I'm going to give DJ this win because I think just that alone, there's got to be games like this where it's so neck and neck, and you're going to have that one player that, because of a certain situation, they're going to kind of change the outlook on this. Jameer Gibbs is that guy.
Yep, I think he'll be an X factor this week, just really because now that the Lions are going to have to be forced to give him the ball. I know they've been wanting to slowly roll him out there, but now, I mean, it's got to be, it's go time for Gibbs. So let him loose, and I really expect Gibbs to exceed that current projection line.
Yep. Can we pull up Puka Nakua's stats real quick? Are we going to see a similar showing from Puka in week 3, just like Cooper Kupp insane numbers just again? Cooper Kupper, man, having a tough time tonight, guys. Can't speak.
Oh, when you're talking about Cooper Kupp and who I call Puka Nakua.
You're puking if you're playing against him because, wow.
Yeah, check these numbers. Last week, 20 targets.
35 targets, guys, in 2 weeks.
And
35 targets.
25 of them.
Some people aren't even getting 25 targets through 2 weeks, guys. He's caught that many balls. And he already has, do the math on that one, Jeff, is that 266 receiving yards?
Yes. 266 off 25 catches. Has not found the end zone, but in PPR, if you're getting those numbers, you don't even need them to.
And the moment that he does find the end zone, good luck, because we're going to see a 40-point week from none other than Puka Nakua.
As you're adapting. Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, I'll say that, we talk about, one of the draft steals of the year in Mike Evans. That's going to be the waiver wire ad of the year.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I mean, especially if he continues to produce like that for the rest of the year, would definitely say he's the pickup of the season. And does that bring us to one last matchup to cover?
Unfortunately, it's mine.
So how are you feeling about this one, buddy?
Could feel better. I'll go ahead and tell you this. I don't think I'm going to play Hollywood Brown this week going against Dallas. I'm probably going to slide I'm
Zach
debating between
Moss.
Zach Moss and Javonte.
And if I'm you, I'm going Zach Moss.
Even at Baltimore?
Yeah.
You like that? Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I pull up Javonte for the first 2 weeks. I mean, we all know what Zach did last week, and that's the only reason I feel so confident putting him in there.
It's just
But
really been, a
middle
small.
of the road. So you've got similar carries to week 1 and week 2. Not great as far as yards are concerned, but he's seeing an adequate amount of targets.
Yeah, the only thing that's given me hope is that while he only had 12 carries last week, no other running back for Denver had more than one. So he's the guy. I need it to translate.
Yeah. I mean, either way you go in this, you're going to see points out of those guys. It's just, in your case, who do you feel better about? And I'm sure you'll
not to spoil anything, but I am trying to work some moves this week. So
potential trade coming.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, folks. We could have a big trade.
Real quick, what scares me about Trey's team is that Justin Fields is eventually going to find it. I don't need it to be this week, and his receiver 1 and 2 are lethal. That's as good as it gets.
James Conner's flex.
Yeah, and then of course, the week that we get the Cam Akers news, he just has Kyren Williams ready to pop in there.
Well, for those of you who haven't been keeping up with the LA Rams or what's going on there, we really were confident in the fact that Cam Akers was going to come out and be the lead back. And it seems like in a matter of 2 weeks, they're ready to ship him off, and Kyren has taken the helm. Even when we saw Cam getting touches in week 1 and 2, Kyren was heavily involved. We're going big box here on Kyren. Yeah. Look at that. 3 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. Actually, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, receiving dude caught 6 balls last week and brought in 1 for a touchdown. In San Francisco.
So it seems that Sean McVay has found who their RB1 is going to be down in LA. They feel confident rolling with him, and Trey's got a really good pickup in his flex.
Yep. So, given that, I just like Trey's roster from top to bottom. I mean, Joe Mixon, James Conner's been solid, and along with Goddard, I hate to do it, but I'm trying to be realistic. I'm going to give it to Trey. In hopes that I can maybe pull off what Yahoo considers is an upset.
Yeah, if I'm trying to pick through this matchup, y'all's quarterback, I was going to kind of take a dig at your quarterback, Jeff, but you can't really say much about Trey's either. So that could go really either way as far as who wins y'all's quarterback matchup. But you can't sleep on your receivers either, Jeff. You've got, Jay Jetta's best receiver in the league. So don't sleep on, your team in that way. James Cook had a good week too. Ramondre is the guy in New England. So if your top, your 5 players right there at the top of your roster can perform really well for you, that gives you a really good chance to compete.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I hope Cook can continue. Stevenson, maybe Hopkins gets more involved than he was last week. So I think it's going to be a good matchup. I will say what makes me nervous is I'm going to need to build a decent lead because he's got Mixon, Goddard, Kyren, and his defense on Monday night. So I'm going to have to be up by 50 to feel even comfortable, so maybe 60. So because, Philly's defense against Tampa Bay, they could easily get 25, and then Kyren, I'm expecting to kind of continue the trend he's on. So there's
15 to 20 points.
Yeah, so right there's 40 points. I'm going to have at least a 60-point lead going into Monday night
to feel comfortable.
Yeah, and I'm still going to be nervous.
I think you could still go up or be up by, roughly 40 points in this matchup and still feel like you have a chance. But you're right. I would be nervous with him having those players left to go.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I would prefer a really large lead going into Monday night just so I don't get just absolutely screwed because almost all of my guys are going at 12 Sunday.
I hate days like that. Those are the worst because after it's done, you're like, well, there's no more football left to watch. Now I've just got to sit back and hope.
Yeah, I'm going to be sitting there for the next 24 hours, 36 hours, just dying.
Yeah.
Just waiting.
Those are tough.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think that puts us 30 minutes past 9 o'clock. We've had a pretty long episode again. We can't help ourselves, guys. We love talking about these matchups. We told ourselves going into this, we're going to try to keep it at an hour. And we probably went a little bit over that today, but nowhere near the length of, I think, our first podcast. I could be wrong, but yeah, love doing this. This is our third episode, and we think we have kind of figured things out as far as what we're using. We love this platform. We've already had a lot of dialogue just with the Know the Game League, and everybody's been pretty receptive about the podcast so far and had people tuning in to listen. And big shout out to Parson, to Robbie, and to Slowman for joining the call tonight. And we've got some other people lined up outside of this league that want to join just as like a caller from the outside. So that'll be exciting just to have some outside perspective and outside opinions on some of these matchups. So, yeah, I think that wraps it up for me. Jeff, what do you have?
Yeah, just want to, again, kind of follow into what you were just talking about. Thank the guys that did make an appearance for coming on with us tonight. I know that we are going to try to, consolidate this the best we can. But like Cameron said, it's easy for us to just kind of get on a roll, go through the matchups and, have the guys on and us talk about the different matchups, different waivers, everything that's happening in the league. So, bear with us. We're going to try to narrow it down to an hour an episode. But, if we run over, just hang out with us for a little bit. Feel free to, throw out something crazy so we, can go through it together. But yeah, just appreciate everyone being here and willing to hear us out, join the show, and give us, banter back and forth.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, yeah, that ends it for our Know the Game podcast, episode number 3. There's a possibility that depending on what's going on this week, if me and Jeff have the time, we may run another episode. But if not, we'll see you again next Tuesday night. Thanks a lot for joining, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
All right. You have a good night. Let's hope we get a win this week.
Same. Signing off, guys.
See you.